Let's continue, children. We shall learn about the subject, which is the first basic element in a sentence. It is denoted by the letter S. What is a subject? The person or thing or place talked about in a sentence is the subject. Or we can also say that the person or thing who does the action in the sentence is the subject. So, subject is the doer of action. Example, the king spoke to his people. Now, the king is the subject here, who is a person, and he does the action spoke in the sentence. Now, subject occurs before the verb. In the sentence, spoke is a verb and the subject, the king, comes before the verb. The subject may be a noun or pronoun or noun phrase. Noun, names of persons, places, animals, things. Pronouns, words used instead of nouns like I, you, they, we, it, he, she. And noun phrases, which are groups of words with a noun like a quick brown fox or three little birds. To get the subject, ask the question who for persons, which are what for things and places before the verb. Example, Rahul won the match. Who won the match? Rahul. It's a subject and it's a noun. He went home. Who went home? He. It's the subject and it's a pronoun. The train left the station on time. What left the station on time? The train. It's the subject and it's a noun phrase. Tom and Jerry is an interesting cartoon film. Which is an interesting cartoon film? Tom and Jerry is the subject and it's a noun phrase. So I hope you have understood subject, children. We shall move on to the verb now. The verb is the second most important basic element in a sentence. It is denoted by the letter V. What is a verb? A verb shows an action or an activity or work done by the subject. Example, birds fly in the sky. So here the action done by the subject is fly. It is the verb. It also tells the state of being or shows possession. Example, I am a teacher. Here, am is the verb which says what the subject is. I have a book. Have is the verb which shows possession of the subject. So the verb always describes what the subject of the sentence is doing. Now, a verb usually follows the subject and comes before the object. Like in this example, the children played cricket every day. Children is subject, cricket is object, and you have the verb played in between the subject and the object. So there can be no sentence without a verb. Example, the dog after the ball. Do you get any meaning out of the sentence? No. So the dog ran after the ball gives us complete meaning with the subject and the verb in it. So verb consists of main verbs and auxiliary verbs. So I have a recap for you over here. Please go through the page, children. You'll know about all the verbs here. So now let's see the examples. Jane wrote a letter. Wrote is a verb which is a main verb. He is a doctor. Is a state of being verb but is a main verb here. The baby is crying is this auxiliary verb. Crying is main verb. So it is a verb phrase. Help me. Help is a main verb with an understood subject. The subject you is hidden here. Now note, all verbs that act as main verbs in the sentences are called finite verbs. So all main verbs are called as finite verbs. Now we have, to sum up, we have 5 types of verbs here. We have learnt about main verb, auxiliary verbs, the linking verbs, and the transitive verbs. They take an object like cows eat grass. Intransitive verb, they take no object like the sun shines. I hope you have understood about verbs, children. I shall see you in the next session. Let's continue, children. We shall learn about object, which is the third basic element in a sentence denoted by O. What is an object? An object is that to which the action is passed on. That is, the object receives the action done by the subject. Objects are nouns or pronouns. Like in this example, the child drank milk. Milk is the object. It is a noun and it receives the action done by the subject, the child. I saw him. Him is the object, which is the pronoun, and it receives the action done by the subject I. Now, objects are of two types, direct object and indirect object. Direct object denoted by DO. A direct object receives the action of the verb. In other words, it is the thing being acted upon. Like in this example, the boy watches the stars. The boy is the subject, watches is the verb. Watches what? The stars. Stars is the object which receives the action done by the subject, the boy. A direct object is located after the action verb. So, watches is your verb, and the direct object, the stars, come after the verb watches. A direct object is a noun, pronoun, or noun phrase. The nouns can be people or things, and it answers the question what for things and who for persons. Example, Sam is eating grapes. Is eating what? Grapes. Grapes is the object, which is a noun, it is a thing. Danny pushed her. Pushed who? Her is the object, which is a pronoun and a person. Now, to find the direct object, first, what do? We find the subject. Look at this example. The boy kicked the ball. The boy is the subject. Then you find the verb, which is kicked. It is an action verb. Now, ask the question, kicked what? Answer is the ball, which is the direct object. It's a noun, it's a thing, and it's the receiver of the action of the verb kicked. In the sentence, I met Annie yesterday. I is the subject, met is the action verb, met who? Met Annie. It's the direct object. It's a noun, it's a person, and receives the action of the verb met. The audience welcomed him. The audience is the subject, welcomed is the action verb, welcome to him, direct object, it's a pronoun and it's a person, receives the action of the verb welcomed. Indirect object denoted by IO. An indirect object is the recipient of the direct object. Recipient means receiver, and it is the beneficiary of the direct object. That means it gets all the benefits of the direct object. Example, Andy bought me a flower. Andy is the subject, bought is the verb. Bought what? A flower. A flower is the direct object. Bought a flower for whom? Me is the for me is the indirect object. An indirect object is always a noun or a pronoun, and it answers the questions to whom or for whom, or to what for what. Now let's see the relationship between the direct and indirect object. Now the action moves from the subject through the verb to the direct object, and then from the direct object to the indirect object. Now let's see the example. She gave me a book. She is subject, gave is verb. Gave what? A book. So that is your direct object. Gave a book for whom? For me. Me is your indirect object. Now let's see the position of direct and indirect objects in a sentence. Indirect objects usually come first in the sentence before the direct object, like subject, verb, indirect object, direct object. In this example, I gave my father a watch. Watch is the direct object and my father is the indirect object. In the sentence, the indirect object comes before the direct object. Now, sometimes the indirect object comes after the direct object with a preposition to or for before it. As in this case, subject plus verb plus direct object plus to or for plus the indirect object. The example, I bought a watch for my father. Here, the direct object, a watch, comes before the indirect object, my father, and the preposition comes before the indirect object. It can be for or to. So, note, an indirect object cannot be used without a direct object in a sentence. I hope you have understood, children. Let's continue, children, with complement, which is the fourth basic element of a sentence denoted by the letter C. What is a complement? The words required to complete the meaning of a sentence is called complement. Without it, the meaning of the sentence is incomplete. Example, he is, this is an incomplete sentence. So we can say he is a doctor. Now, doctor is a complement that completes the meaning of the sentence. They made him, it's incomplete. They made him captain. captain is the complement that completes the meaning of the sentence. A complement comes to complete the meaning of the subject or object. Now, in the first example here, he is a doctor. Doctor is the complement that completes the meaning of the subject he. In the second example, they made him captain. Captain is the complement that completes the meaning of the object him. Complements are mostly adjectives or nouns. Adjectives are nouns which say something more about the subject is called subject complement. Example, he became rich. Now, rich is your complement. It is an adjective. The complement says something more about the subject he. Therefore, rich is called as the subject complement. Adjectives are nouns which say more about the object is called as object complement. Example, they elected Michael leader. Now, leader is the complement which is a noun and it says something more about the object Michael. Therefore, leader is called as object complement. Some easy ways to locate complements. All adjectives take complements like easy, young, poor, rich, sweet, sour, white, blue, pretty, nice, hungry, angry, brave, happy. They're all adjectives of quality, adjectives of taste, adjectives of color, and adjectives of feeling. They all take complements. Example, her eyes are beautiful. Beautiful is an adjective, it's a compliment. All professions take compliments like doctor, teacher, lawyer, engineer, dentist, banker, programmer, professor, singer, dancer, painter, officer, etc. All such professions take compliments. Example, Mr. John is a lawyer. Lawyer is a profession, it's a compliment. Robert made his son a police officer. Police officer is a profession, it's a compliment. Complements are used with be form of verbs. Is, am, are, was, were, has, have, had are all be verbs. They take complements. Example, I am an Indian. Am is a be verb. What follows is a complement. Therefore, an Indian is a complement. Some linking verbs take complements like seem, appear, look, consider, elect, select, nominate, call, named, appoint, declare, smell, turn, become, feel, make, find are some linking verbs. They take complements. Example, the leaves turn yellow. Turn is your linking verb. What follows is a complement. So, yellow is your complement. Complements come only in the SVC pattern and SVOC pattern. We continue. Let's continue, children, with adjuncts. Adjunct is the fifth basic element of a sentence denoted by the letter A. Now, what is an adjunct? Adjunct is an additional part of a sentence. It contains extra information about the subject or the object. Example, she draws pictures on the wall. Now, on the wall is the adjunct that gives extra information to the sentence, she draws pictures. Adjunct is not necessary to complete the meaning of the sentence, and if it is removed, it makes no harm to the meaning of the sentence. Example, every morning I read the Bible. Now, every morning is your adjunct, and if you remove it, your sentence would be I read the Bible, which is complete in itself. An adjunct can come anywhere in the sentence, at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end. Let's see the examples. On the east side of the river, the sun rose. On the east side of the river is your adjunct at the beginning of the sentence. She readily gave me the money. Readily is your adjunct in the middle of the sentence. She met me in the park. In the park is the adjunct at the end of the sentence. Adjuncts are basically adverbs or adverbials. Quickly, early, slowly, soon, today, later, tomorrow, now, at 6 o'clock, at night, yesterday, at the park, in the garden, at home, on the table, near the gate, after dinner, in January, due to fever, here, there, are all adverbials or adverbs called adjuncts. To get an adjunct, ask the question how, when, where, and why. How for manner, when for time, where for place, and why for reason. Example, he drives the car slowly. Drives how? Slowly. That is adjunct of manner. Magesh got up early. Got up when? Early. That is adjunct of time. My father works in Bangalore. Works where? In Bangalore. That is adjunct of place. Gandhiji sacrificed his life for his country. Sacrificed his life. Why? For his country is your adjunct of reason. Let's continue in the next session, children.